This is Raynan, and I'm going to be doing my ToK presentation now. I'm not doing it with Ryan because Ryan has not really done much of the work, and I want to make sure that at least I have something to hand in, just in case maybe when we're supposed to do it together, we are not able to, maybe because we can't coordinate it very well. And so here it is. So we're going to start with the real life situation, which is about the most likely way for the universe to die and end. So as in, if the universe itself being destroyed or life ceasing to exist, so the universe rips apart, or the the universe becomes an empty void that's without life or without any light. The knowledge question is basically on how far we can trust these theories that we have in order to understand the world and the universe in which we live in, since we are unable to test all possibilities. For example, copper conducts electricity. That is technically a theory and not a fact, because so far we have not found an isotope of copper that does not conduct electricity. So we can only use this so far as a way of understanding the current universe and world that we live in. The knowledge claim, which is the KC, the claim is that we cannot trust the theories too much, and there's an extent that we cannot trust it to. So for example, we can only trust it to probably 98 to 99%, but not 100% so far, because we have no ways, because so far the theories have been refined unto a point where it's pretty much our reality right now. However, we have not found a way to falsify it to make sure that yes, it is true that this theory is a fact. And the counterclaim is that since we don't have any more other evidence to falsify these theories are what we can believe in for the current time being until the future. Example for this is like life and death. So for more of death actually, but so death, when it comes to death, so how do we die? So to support the claim, we can say that death actually comes from God itself. God decides that when we should die and when we should not die. And for the counterclaim is that we have no evidence that a God or any higher life form has anything to do with death, and we can only assume that death is just a natural thing that happens due to the theories and knowledge that we have currently. As for the implications of my knowledge, I try to think of it in a more logical sense, like sort of like a more math-like way, where 1 plus 1 equals to 2 and not 1 plus 1 equals to 3, based on evidence and what we've been taught already. So it's based on prior knowledge and not really extra knowledge. And for the next slide, it's the proposition and evidence for the RLS. So the RLS is the most likely way for the universe to end, as in to be destroyed or life ceases to exist and the universe becomes an empty void. The proposition is the most likely way for the universe to end is by a second Big Bang. And the Big Bang is defined as an explosion which caused the universe and is theorized to have begun as a singularity at the center of our universe, which has now expanded at high speeds and is continuously stretching. So it's becoming bigger and bigger. There are actually four theories there's actually four theories on how the universe shall end. One is the Big Crush, where the universe stops expanding and reaches a maximum expansion and starts to shrink back to its original state of singularity. The second of which is the Big Rip, where the universe continues to expand at a constant acceleration, and so the universe rips itself apart. The third of which used to be the most likely theory, was the Big Freeze, which says that the universe will spread out to a point where no more new stars will appear, and therefore the universe will become empty, lifeless void, as there are no more stars, and therefore there's no more systems such as like the solar system and its Earth. So no more life can exist. Everything becomes dark. There's nothing there. However, the new theory is there's a second Big Bang, which states that such a thing called a God particle which is more commonly known as the Higgs boson, could erupt a massive explosion which when destabilized, which can be caused when uh when it's when it come which caused by when it becomes destabilized, which could cause something similar to the Big Bang, which everything will be evaporated and none of us will be able to register in our brains fast enough before we would cease to exist. Um, and according to the article, scientists have 95% sure this is how the universe shall end. Evidence about this proposition is that the Higgs boson, if destabilized, which can happen by a number of ways, the most common way of which is a black hole. And a black hole is defined as a region of space having a gravitational field that's really intense, that no matter or light can escape it, which is caused when the core of a star uh, collapses on itself. This means that a black hole can also technically change the mass of the Higgs boson, which would then vaporize everything. Since the Higgs boson is actually spread out and diluted across the universe, so none of us will register that have ceased to exist. Now, one would like to know more before accepting the knowledge claim. So I would have liked to know some, in simpler terms, why the scientists researching on the subject of how the universe ran might have come to the decision that a second Big Bang would destroy the universe. I'd like to know what kind of approach they took in finding this out, because most of the terms they use are very complex and not very easy to understand for someone not as intelligent as myself. And yeah, and the approach they took could also decide what kind of knowledge they have got and what kind of things they have managed to get. So, and what I think about what I think about and why this article is worthy of investigation is because the topic is actually very interesting. Because just like humans themselves, humans will die out eventually. So naturally, like everything in nature, everything will die. So we assume, so that's technically a theory, because it's a theory that everything will end its life cycle and die. So just like stars as well. So therefore, we can kind of logically assume that the universe itself might also die at one point, and which makes it very and since the universe is really big and it's been here for an extremely long time, and so it makes me wonder like how it came to be, and also how it will cease to exist. However, um, however, the way I think of this is actually quite subjective and opinion based because of how I'm brought up and how I have learned to understand things. So it might contain a lot of bias and uh, subjectivity. And so why do I think I can trust this article and what's being said in it? Um, I think I can trust it because the statements are actually quite logical, and I feel that I can understand it quite well. Um, but maybe not super well. I can understand the basic facts on maybe on like how the universe will die, and it seems pretty interesting to research it in the future maybe. Um, However, I cannot be 100% sure that I can trust the article because it's also a theory. It's not technically a fact. So just like everything, I'm not supposed to 100% trust it because I'm not able to falsify it. Okay, this next one is, which of the above slides are matters within the scope of the sciences? Basically, it's mostly all of the points on the slide, because they are theories based on the sciences themselves and what we know. And however, there is a part of the religion was um, that religion was possibly correct the whole time, and that maybe um, maybe the sciences are not the ones that are correct, and it's that we should have had more faith. Um, the other parts about the slides is that the this school sciences is that the the logic and reasoning are actually quite they make sense. Um, it feels like a mathematical equation, and this is a bit of subjectivity because I feel that it feels like 1 + 1 = 2 after something is born and then it ends up being dead. So that's a theory. That's a theory, and I think another part of the sciences is the evidence that has been provided by the article and all the other external links that we provide in the article itself, which show all what kind of things have been researched in the article itself. Okay, so this is one of the last few slides, which is to what question are the issues found in the above slide a reasonable response? For this question, I had a lot of deep thinking to do, which above I said I'm not extremely good at, and actually this is one of my worst parts of my brain. And I think from the simplified meaning, it says how reasonable are the issues in the above slide. So far that's all I can think of. Which so basically, which I think is which are the issues in the scope of the sciences, and what I would like to know before accepting the claim. I think the issues are actually quite reasonable from my point of view, which is another point of subjectivity and bias. And my reasoning being that there's evidence and there's scientific facts, and um, they can be falsified and they can be tested, but it will take a really long time, and things can change. So far, like the reason why it's not 100% reliable and reasonable is because it's kind of like a theory as well. You cannot really trust it 100%, and also that the the testing, like how a few like many years ago, um a scientist, a Greek scientist who I forgot the name of, he he thought that gravity was actually just objects trying to return to their natural place on the Earth, and then it was realized that after a few more years, that it was actually a false code known as that we now call gravity. So theories can change over time and evolve over time. Okay, so this is the citation. I got the real life situation from bigthing.com, which is and I got how to do the presentation, like the basic format uh, from theoryofknowledge.net. Uh, yeah, okay, that's the presentation done. I hope this was reasonable and good enough. Um, thank you.